The Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by DraftKings 2021 Charles Schwab Challenge DraftKings picks and preview. Remember, smash the like button out there. In the comments section, you tell me your favorite single play in the $6,000 range for the Charles Schwab Challenge on DraftKings this week. The Listeners League link is open right now. It's filling up quickly. Link is in the description of the video and pod. If you are watching the video because you've tuned in from the audio podcast, there is a problem with Apple Podcasts right now. If you did the update on your phone, shows just are disappearing. They're not showing up on time. So I'm working to rectify the problem. It's not just me in the Mayo Media Network. CBS is having the problem. ESPN is having the same problem. It's an Apple problem. Hopefully they get their shit sorted out very soon. Because that'd be very nice. Because, the numbers, all of a sudden, it's going up, and then it's like, oh yeah, no one downloaded the show today. That's really weird. Because no one can actually download it or find it. You have to, go and search it. I posted up on Twitter if you're looking for a way to kind of jerry-rig around it in the interim until they get their shit figured out. But until then, you're watching it here on YouTube. So, hey, welcome. It's available on every other podcast server, too. If you use Overcast or Spotify or Stitcher, it's still popping up there. It's just Apple Podcasts is having the issue right now. FantasyNational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off all the stats, all the tools, the lineup generator, the tournament simulator, ownership projections. It's all there for you. Check it out. Get your 20% off with FantasyNational.com/Mayo. Bringing him in because he's owed an appearance on the show. Because we fought the last time he was on. He said K.H. Lee. I said Wyndham Clark. He cashes a 200-1 ticket on K.H. Lee to win, and turns out to be a pretty good DraftKings play himself. Wyndham Clark, he's fine. No K.H. Lee, put it that way. Geoff Ulrich from DK Live and Awesemo.com at the Fantasy Grind on Twitter. Congratulations, sir. You won this round.
I did. Good timing, man. I don't know. Heating up a little bit in the betting area. You'll have to see it, but yeah, it was, I don't know. It was a cool sweat. I mean, I don't think I've hit a guy that big for a while, if ever. So it was cool.
Yeah, a 200-1 winner, that's like it's funny because we throw out these 200-1 winners almost every single week. Spoiler alert, They never win. So that's one of the, I don't think I've ever hit a 200-1 winner. That hasn't been running.
Yeah, I think 200. It's definitely. I'm almost positive I've never hit someone that big, but I hit 150-1 on the Corn Ferry Tour with Curtis Luck last year. So that's another big one. But it's like I was telling people, if you hit one guy over 100-1 every year, you were laughing. So nice to get it out of the way, I guess.
Well, realistically, I made this promise to Feinberg at the very beginning of the year. I was like, I'm just not going to bet anyone over to 80-1. If someone over to 80-1 wins, good on them. It's going to happen from time to time. It just doesn't normally happen. Yeah. Even when it comes down to it, you're probably not going to pick the guy that is 300-1 who wins. I don't know anyone who bet Jim Herman, for example, at the Wyndham last year. Yet every single week, you look at my card, there's 5 guys over 100-1.
Yeah. If you're betting over 100-1, I really recommend you get it. If you do it consistently, you get access to the good books with the good each ways, not the good books, just the good each way bets that are out there. Or you also bet them top 10 in some kind of way. So you do that mix and match because it's not going to cost you much to invest in the outright. But again, I had an each way on KH Lee to top 8. So that's where you're really getting the good bargains, at least in my opinion, on the each ways on those guys and on the placing. You throw a little on the outright, or if you're doing it each way, it's 2 bets anyways. But that's why I consistently have guys like that on the card as well. And also, I do think that every week there's a handful of guys that are 100-1 and maybe shouldn't be. Now, hitting them is almost impossible. But again, if you're getting them each way or top 10 or something as well, I do think it actually creates a pretty good bet.
Yeah, at the Byron Nelson, Patton Kazire really bailed me out with his, he came in second. So he came in third. He got the top 5 each way. I was like, all right, it's not bad. That's what
was he? He was 100-1 there, wasn't he?
He was 150-1. So that really paid out nicely for me.
Exactly. Perfect example. And I mean, last week I had a couple guys at 70-1, same thing. So if you're doing those, the bigger odds, they're harder to hit, but mix and match with either the each way or the top 10. It's like a betting, thing. It just works if you do it consistently.
We're here to talk about DraftKings pricing, though. So let's talk about the course before we jump into what the actual salaries are for the field this week at the Charles Schwab Challenge. Colonial CC, the longest running course at a single event on the PGA Tour, the Charles Schwab Challenge. It's been known as many things, even over the past decade, but Colonial Country Club has been the host course for this tournament since 1946. Got some baby boomer vibes going on to it. Daniel Berger is the defending champion. This was the first one out of COVID a year ago. It's a shade over 7,200 yards. It's on bent grass greens. The field is 121 players this week. So over half the field is going to make the cut. This is down from 156 a year ago. They tried to jam as many people into tournaments coming out of the COVID hiatus to get people chances to win money. Last year, it's back to its invitational status this time around. So it's a capped field, one of the smallest on the PGA Tour that actually has a cut line this year. So upwards of 60% of players could end up making the cut, depending on how many get into that top 65 in ties. The only other real DraftKings note is for showdown purposes, get your guys starting on the back nine if you can help it, because holes 17, 18, 1, and 2, pretty easy. The rest of them, not so much. So there is an advantage on the wraparound from 17 through 2, more likely to generate a birdie streak, which, if you're dealing with fractional points and things like that in DraftKings Showdown, is something that you want to do. I went over that on the research show. You can go check that out. Came out Sunday, where I break down the modeling and everything like that. I even tweaked the model just a little bit as well. Maybe I'll check that in the newsletter. That comes out Wednesday evening. So subscribe to that in the description of the video and pod. Free. You can unsubscribe to it anytime you want, but sometimes it has some good info and sometimes it has some really good giveaway opportunities. So if you like free money, get it on the newsletter. What is it, an email that you delete and don't read? Who gives a shit? Just give me your email, okay? Thanks. What do you make of this course? Because it feels like a course where almost any style of player can win.
Well, first of all, the showdown thing, man, with the starting on the back nine, that is you're making me just feel dumb right off the bat. I mean, that's something I'd never think about, but I know there's people who do approach showdown like that, and it just probably shows you that I should never play that format. But anyways, that's a good one to start off. You're right. It is kind of one of those courses, though, where realistically, if a guy shows up and gets hot with the putter, he can win. I mean, it doesn't matter if he's a bomber. Phil's one here as an example, just booting it all over the course, got hot with his irons and got out with the putter, and he picked up a win here. So definitely not what you describe as a typical Phil course, but a good example of just any kind of guy can really grab a win here. But it's tended to be, a playground for the Matt Kuchar types. I mean, you just look at the last few winners, Kisner, or Rose, Spieth. I mean, just elite putters, guys who don't necessarily do much off the tee, but they get hot with their irons, they get hot with their putters. So it brings in a ton of different styles in play. Obviously, we want to emphasize approach games. Morikawa last year, really hot with the irons, but you've got to kind of consider that, you could get out putted here by a Brian Harman. Sand traps here, they're tough to play out of. Good sand players have good records here. So it's an interesting course. It actually played pretty tough last year. I hope the greens are tight and fast again, because they were last year, and that made it the 7th toughest course on tour. I think if they do stay fast, you'll see more guys with Morikawa and Corey Connors have a chance here.
Well, just based on the player that you've described, get a hot putter, be good out of the sand, hit irons okay, doesn't matter your distance. And with the current run of just geriatric players winning events on the PGA Tour, not even just Phil, but Stuart Sink, Brian Gay. Does that mean Zach Johnson's going to win over the past 24 rounds? He's second in putting, third in sand saves. I think he's won twice here anyway. Yeah,
he has won a couple times here at least. I mean, Zach Johnson playing shit right now, Pat. So if he wins, it would break everything. But at this point, we can't really rule anything out, right? I mean, with what Phil did last week, obviously, just an insane. I guess he told everyone he was about to win or he was on the verge, but I mean, it sure didn't look like it. So maybe Zach Johnson is the same thing behind the scenes, just telling everyone. But you're right; it's kind of the same style of veteran player, but he's pretty far. He seems pretty far gone right now. He was a little consistent there for a bit, but outside of the putter and short game, I'm not that interested in Zach Johnson.
He did in his 2 rounds at the PGA Championship. He did gain strokes on approach. It was the only thing that he gained in. It was the first time that he gained an approach in ages, despite the fact that I think he made the cut at both Wells Fargo and the Valspar, which is, putting and chipping was how he got it. I think he gained 6 strokes putting in each of those events. So maybe he can get heated up. I don't know. Here are your top 15 putters per Fantasy National over the past 24 rounds who are in this field. Reed, ZJ. If you gotta ask what it is, you can't afford it, big man. Patton Kazire, Ian Poulter. There's another old dude. Kokrak, Denny McCarthy, Brendan Todd, JT Poston, Brian Harmon, Joaquin Neiman, 10th. Camilo Villegas, Higgs, Im, Stallings, and, of course, everyone's favorite, Mackenzie Hughes.
Neiman's interesting, isn't it? I noticed he was popping with the putter recently. Looks like he's found a little bit of confidence. I think that would spark most people's interest the most. I mean, Reed is always up there. So you look at that list. I mean, is this Camilo time? I don't know. I mean, another name I was kind of surprised to see up there, or just looking at it right now. Anyways, I mean, he can get a little bit hot tee to green. So interesting list. But, of those players, Brian Harmon, definitely like the prototypical dude who does well here. He's got a good record here. Certainly made the cut here the last 5 years. That would be the guy that stands out the most to me in that list. But Neiman definitely being in the top 10 putters right now, or top 15, whatever we were talking about there. That is interesting for his chances this week for sure. He was T8 here on debut back in 2018. So
yeah, I think that was the week he turned pro, or the week like after he turned pro. It was one of his very first events as a professional coming out of the Masters with his amateur status. One of the reasons that I like him here is that around the green is just so de-emphasized. Like if he's having a good week, he's going to hit like 78% of greens in regulation. And these are small greens. That's what that type of player needs to do to win here. If he's relying on his chipping and putting, he's absolutely screwed to begin with, because that's been bad, like really bad. But if the putter can be decent, which it has been, we know the ball striking is going to show up.
And Neiman has been like, he can obviously just get as hot as like Connors with his irons as well, but he's definitely shown he can pop more with the putter. So I'm interested in him out of all those names the most, probably from like an outright perspective, but also from a DraftKings perspective, I think too. He's only 9,300 coming off a solid week. His other win was on bent grass, if you want to read anything into that, but a very similar course. A bit of a ball striker's course where he just putted the lights out for a week too. And I mean, he won by like a touchdown that week, I think. But, he doesn't necessarily have to get super hot with the putter to win. If he just putts consistently, he can also fire with the irons. So, yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, I don't think it's like a tricky, crazy course where he's going to, short game himself out of it, like take like a 4-chip or something. Neiman is really interesting at that price. Definitely the guy, like I said, I think I like the most just in terms of pure upside in that range. I mean, I like Answer too, but everyone's going to be on Answer, and Neiman is a lot cheaper for DraftKings.
Yeah, we're recording this very early in the week, so you'll want to go on to fantasynational.com to check out the ownership projections later on, like deep on a Wednesday, to really see where everyone's gravitating towards. I have no conception of who is going to be popular this week and who isn't, only because I looked at the betting board when I ran this through with Feinberg, and I couldn't really figure out who I wanted to bet from the top. And I think that leads us into the guys above $10,000. Jordan Spieth, the most expensive player on the board at 11-2. But then you have Justin Thomas, who's the number 2 player in the world, and he's cheaper than Spieth, which I can see, kind of. But he's still $11,000. You got Morikawa at 10.5, Reed at 10.3, Berger at 10,000. Those are your big 5. Those are the big 5 in terms of the betting odds. Actually, Answer is around Berger in terms of the betting odds this week. But I just think you keep riding Colin Morikawa here and just hope it's one of the weeks that he putts, because if it's not, he'll come in 8th, and if he putts well, he'll win.
I mean, Morikawa is first in strokes gained tee to green, first in strokes gained approach over the last 50 rounds. Like he's just so prototypical perfect for this course. He's going to hit a ton of fairways, which, is really the only important thing you have to do off the tee here. You just try to not get yourself in too much trouble that you're blocked out. He's going to fire at every pin because he's the best iron player in the world. He doesn't have to worry too much about chipping and putting. So, I mean, just the putting aspect really is what we're worried about here. He's playing pretty well. Like, I mean, he's not like so off kilter around the greens or anything that we have to worry about that. Yeah. I mean, he's the best, of the top 3. I think Justin Thomas, obviously, if his putter shows up here and he just plays like his iron games like he does every week, I mean, he could easily win here by like 4 strokes too. But Morikawa's $500 cheaper. You don't necessarily have to worry about, Thomas coming off a miscut or anything like that. So Spieth maybe deserves to be 11-2. He's just so good at this venue. I get it. But, Thomas or Morikawa down there, yeah, I would play them either. And it's a pretty big savings. We're talking about $500, not like a couple hundred. It's $500 between Thomas and Spieth. It's hard for me to make an argument to not have like Morikawa as your top guy there.
The issue is like Morikawa is my top guy of this bunch, but like I would have Thomas and Spieth so close behind him, and I'd have Reed and Berger at the same time, like not too far behind them. Like I don't think there's a lot that separates these top 5 guys, which is making it really difficult for me of where I want to start my team. So I take 2 of these guys, or do I say screw it, play none of these guys and play 4 guys from like 95 to 8,000, then fill out the rest of my team? Because that balance build is kind of enticing too, because there's a bunch of guys in that range who I think are actually quite good. And have a legitimate chance of winning this week. And a bunch of them like the high 8s. Like if I can go 2 low 9s, 2 high 8s, 2 low 7s, I don't hate that build, I don't think.
No, I agree. And look, we're obviously talking about like the guys over 10K and how we'd rank them and stuff like that. And I agree. It's close. I mean, Patrick Reed here is a guy. I mean, we're talking about this being a bit of a putting event. He's probably the best putter, and that includes Spieth from the stats of the top 5. Although Berger and Spieth are both extremely good in that regard too. But I agree. I mean, you look at this event, and I don't think I'd have a problem just starting in the 9K range. I mean, we're early in the week here, and some of these guys are going to be popular, but they're also going to eat into each other's ownerships, right? Like Corey Connors and Joaquin Niemann, basically the same price. They're not both going to be like 50% owned. At least I don't think they're going to be. Gary Woodland's coming off a great week. Scheffler's coming off a good week. Everybody gets a little bit of Tony Finau in their lineup, and Answer is more expensive. So I think that's actually going to keep his ownership somewhat reasonable. So I think starting with 2 in this range is exactly what I want to do. Now for uniqueness, you might, as we get more ownership projections later in the week, say, okay, Justin Thomas is coming in at like 8% or something. I'm getting a piece of that. But if we don't get that, if we do get like spread ownership from like 9K and above, then yeah, I'm just starting in the 9K range, because Corey Connors, ball striking stats, ridiculous at this point. Answer, putting, and an iron play, just like the perfect fit for this course right now. Niemann, we just talked about. Woodland. I mean, I can definitely, if I was leaning right now, just we're not worried about ownership or anything like that. Yeah, I'd probably start in the 9K range, maybe even take 3 or 2, and like you said, and then dip down in the 8K range.
And even the 9K range, I'm finding it really difficult to parse, because you can make a very compelling case for a lot of these players. Like starting with Zalatoris, who I just continue to play and bet every single week. It didn't work once, but that's okay. I lose every week anyway. It's not usually Zalatoris's fault that he's not the reason that I'm losing all the time. But I do worry about the putter with him. Is like, can he get it hot enough to do it? Now, at the Masters on really fast bent grass greens, it wasn't a problem for him. So if he can continue to ball strike the way that he's doing it right now, maybe he's sort of like a discount Morikawa at this point, who just kind of hits it slightly longer, obviously not as accurate off the tee, but the irons have been not as good, but 92% is good, which is a pretty compelling case for someone here. Then you just drop down. You mentioned Answer. I'll probably just fade Answer and hope he has a bad week, a bad putting week or something like that, because I bet Connors, I bet Niemann. I can see myself starting my lineups with those 2 guys.
Yeah, you look at the structure of the 9K range, and I mean, I think some people just get on Answer just because they don't want to miss, but it does feel like Zalatoris could be the guy who people just like, well, they take your same philosophy. We're all going to be talking about how guys have, lit it up on the greens here, and Zalatoris can't putt well enough here. But like, let's not forget, I mean, Justin Rose came here a couple of years ago and just like basically, hit it to within 10 feet every hole. And I think he only gained like a couple strokes putting that year. So it certainly can be done. I also think, you look back last year, Morikawa got in the playoff. He had a good putting week, but it wasn't crazy good. It was just solid. He lost in the playoff. I mean, he easily could have won the event. So I think this is actually a pretty good stop for Will Zalatoris, if we're being dead honest. I mean, he is just firing with the irons so well right now, so pure. If the course plays a little bit tougher, I really do think that favors the guy with like the stronger iron plays, whereas it should become like a little bit less of a putting contest. So all in all, this 9K range isn't like much easier than the 10K range to sort out. I mean, I think I'm probably okay leaving Scheffler out of lineups this week. Iron up game just still isn't there. If he gains like 10 strokes putting or something, fine, that'll beat me. Finau, I'll probably leave out. It's kind of in contention last week. Again, a guy I'm just not worried about getting too hot with the putter. So for me, if I'm paying up in the 9K range, it's going to be Answer Zalatoris. If I'm paying down, we already talked about Niemann. Got to get a piece of him. And Connor's going to be chalky, but God, that's going to be a hard fade. He's just so consistent, such a good fit for this course.
One of the things that you can do is you can find a pivot in this 9K range. So of the top players right now, Berger is in single digits, and this is very early ownership. But I do find that the early ownership can be somewhat indicative of, hey, this is obviously people are just logging in, looking at it, and be like, oh, I like that guy, and that guy. So it's pretty damning about the guys that get left off, because everyone stars everyone at the beginning of the week. Then you work your way back. At least that's how I do it. I start a whole bunch of people, and then on Monday, and then on Tuesday, we talk, and then I go through it again and remove some guys from the list. Maybe you'll talk me into one or two, and I'll add them. And then by Wednesday, it's like, oh, I need to get rid of like 50% of the people that I have highlighted right now. And then I'm good to make my core. And I think that's how most people's process go if they start doing it early in the week and don't just jump in on a Wednesday. So Berger, it just seems to be the one no one really wants from the 10K range. Then you get into the 9s, and there's like 4 guys, if we go down to 8,900, that people just are not clicking on. Like, they're projected for sub 5% ownership right now. Right. Scheffler, Woodland, Im, and Rose.
Interesting. I would have thought Justin Rose might have got a little spark. I guess people don't think he's going to gain 11 strokes putting again this week like he did last week.
Well,
I also thought Scheffler.
The whole reason is it's the Rick Gaiman method of they're just getting sandwiched out. Like, Finau and Answer are going to be super popular. Connors and Neiman are going to be super popular. Scheffler's right in between them.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, you might see Scheffler get a little bit of love later in the week. Obviously, like Pat said, we're a little bit earlier than usual, but yeah, I'm not shocked. I mean, like I said, I mean, my first inclination is also to just like not worry too much about Scotty Scheffler this week. So right off the bat, Scheffler, quite frankly, I mean, I think Scheffler long-term might actually be a better player than Corey Connors, but that probably opens up the spot for him as a good pivot in this range. So, you're looking at this range. I mean, you could go down to Woodland. He's played okay in spurts. Justin Rose, again, I just never play Justin Rose, so I'm not going to play him. Although I am a little bit surprised people aren't interested in him being a former winner here, but I can kind of get that. I think Scheffler, to me, is probably the most attractive of those pivot names. A Texas guy, obviously. The irons haven't really been there, but I guess you could kind of make the argument that, again, we have seen guys just, put the lights out here as well. So, and I mean, like, he's certainly capable of elevating for a week. So yeah, Scheffler, probably the most attractive of those pivot names. It's going to be hard to get off the chalk here, though.
It is. Really I would say of the pivot guys, I can buy into Scheffler, but if we're looking at sort of the prototypical type of player that can do well here, hits a lot of fairways, needs to get hot with the irons, but if they go nuclear with their putter, all of a sudden it's a game changer. I think that's Sungjae, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. T10 here last year has had like really hot putting rounds. Absolutely, for sure. Sungjae is probably where I would lean over Woodland. Again, Woodland just been a little bit too inconsistent for me. And I think Sungjae at his best is probably a better putter as well. So, you could also drag it further. I mean, Sungjae's had some pretty solid par 70 results, Honda Classic and stuff like that. He was good at the RBC Heritage. So I think this track ultimately sets up as a pretty solid like Sungjae track. A guy who can just do good at everything. Has he been firing with his approach well enough? No, but like Scheffler, I think that he can definitely pay off this salary with like a good week. I don't think his game is that far off. So not a player like Scheffler and him aren't players I'm going to bet outright. At least I don't think I am. Maybe I think of the two, I might have a little bit more interest in Sungjae, but we'll see what the odds are like later in the week. But I definitely can get behind them as DraftKings pivots because these guys are consistent. They're not like broken right now in any one aspect of their game. And, they can get hot with their putters. Like, they're pretty good putters. So I definitely see the value in Sungjae and Scheffler in this range as pivots.
Yeah, it would be Im over Scheffler for me as the pivot play. And again, we'll see how this ownership projects out as the week goes along, because it's sort of tier 1, Connors and Neiman for me. And I like Answer and Zalatoris, and maybe I'll start some lineups with Zalatoris over Answer, or even Finau at that point. But those are the two guys that I really want. Im probably the pivot in that range, but I have a lot of interest in Jason Kokrak too, which he had a bad Sunday. Okay. I mean, it's Jason Kokrak at a major championship. This course is kind of perfect for him along the same lines of Connors and Neiman. Is just, if you're going to do well at this course, around the green doesn't matter. And then that's the one thing that those three players share, is they're all horrendous around the greens. Connors did gain strokes putting in 5 consecutive events before now losing in 3 straight, but not a ton losing. That's okay. You can lose 0.4, Corey. That's perfectly acceptable. Just don't lose like 8 like he used to be doing, and we're on the same page. And Neiman and Kokrak have just been straight up putting well.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like we don't talk about like emphasizing putting too much on this show, but again, I think this is a week where you don't have to cut a guy out or something. Like you don't have to cut Corey Connors out, but if you're making decisions for GPPs, like in terms of upside, when you factor in ownership and just like pure, like who can get you like potentially 5 strokes putting, like it's Kokrak or Im down there. I don't disagree at all. And that's kind of what makes these events like a little bit harder to predict because we're relying more on putting, but it's also like, I think what you have to do with these events. Again, I'm not necessarily just going to straight up fade Corey Connors just because, Sungjae is like a slightly better putter or something. Well, he's more than slightly better, but it is like something I'm going to factor in. I'm definitely factoring in on bets this week and stuff like that. Like guys, I think could pop for massive putting weeks. And I think you have to do this at the top as well when you're coming down. And who are you going to leave out? Are you really going to lean on Neiman here, or are you going to lean on Connors? I think that's going to be the big one for me because I don't want to play both of them. They're probably just going to be too much ownership. So if I'm leaning one, it's probably going to be Neiman. He's putted better, but you could also make that argument, if you got to decide between Connors and a less chalky play like Kokrak or M, they definitely bring better upside from the putting perspective.
In the $8,000 range, I think I have the top figured out of what I want to do. Me and the world, actually, looking at the ownership. Charlie Hoffman projects to be the highest owned player in the field, at least right now. I bet him at 55 to 1. It's Charlie. It's in Texas. I can't recall a time where he's actually had better form coming in. He's 4th in the stats model over the past 24 rounds. He can putt a little bit. Didn't do so much on the weekend at the PGA Championship, but the ball striking was still immaculate, and that was against the best players in the world. This course really suits him a lot more, I think. So I love him at 87, and I really like Billy Horschel at $8,800. He's won in Texas before. The names that you rattled off about guys that have won here, like it's a Kuchar course or it's a Kisner course, well, those are the guys who just play well in Austin. And Billy Horschel just won in Austin, so he actually has 2 wins in Texas, now that I come to think about it. And the irons have been really good. The driving has been really good. And if we talk about someone who can get scorching with the putter, it's Billy Ho.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we're talking about all these guys in the 9K range, and they're all great ball strikers and stuff like that. But realistically, like the winners here have been like Billy Horschel's, like we said, Kuchars and Spieths and Kisners. Like those are the guys who actually grab the trophy. So again, I definitely don't hate it as a pivot off Charlie Hoffman. I think Hoffman might be a guy I get exposure to in betting and then just fade in DFS for that reason alone. I'm just not sure. I mean, Hoffman's obviously had some good putting weeks in his career. It's not like he can't do it, but I think I would rather take a shot with a guy like Brian Harman too in this range at 8K, coming off a miscut. Actually gained like 4.5 strokes, I think, ball striking last week. He just didn't putt well for like the first time in like a year. So now he comes to Colonial where he like never misses the cut, knows these greens well. I'm okay fading the Hoffman chalk here. I don't think it's a bad play, but again, if you're going to like start with Neiman and Connors or something and then go with Hoffman, I mean, well, you might as well just like, I don't even know, but it's just too much exposure. It's just too much ownership right off the bat. So Hoffman probably be the guy fade, his salary's up a bit. He's playing great, but I like going a little bit, more for the putting upside in this range for sure too.
The 4 highest projected owned players on a Tuesday morning, at least. We'll see if this holds up. Chris Kirk, the highest owned of any player at $7,600. Emiliano Grillo, the second highest owned at $7,900. Brian Harman, the third highest owned at $8,000. Then Charlie Hoffman at $8,700 comes in as the 4th highest projected owned player on this slate. I mean, those are the guys that we're kind of talking about who win this event. I get that. Out of all those 3 guys, I'm most comfortable eating the Hoffman chalk, I think.
And he's definitely played the best tee to green. So fair point. We'll see how that shakes out later in the week. But yeah, I mean, Grillo for sure, that you come to a course, Emiliano Grillo, everyone knows, he obviously had the hero ball to win, or not to win, to make it felt like a win, I'm sure for some people, to make the cut on the last hole last week at the PGA Championship. He's gained 7 strokes on approach in his last 2 starts. It's ridiculous. So people see that. They see he's played well at Colonial. He almost won the year Justin Rose won. it's hard to get off. I mean, the guy's under 8K in price. He's making a lot of cuts, and when he does make the cut, he's generally like getting himself into contention or top 20ing. So been a very solid DraftKings play, like when he gets across the line. So I don't know. I mean, all these, obviously all these guys are going to be focused on. So I think the real struggle this week is just like finding appropriate pivots, because it does feel like that's hard. I mean, we talked about guys in the 9K range, and I think there's legitimate, upside with Sanjay and Kokrak, but it feels harder as you get down here for sure. I mean, I like Matt Wallace, but he's never played here before. He does have a tendency to just kind of like, go through peaks and valleys. Is he reaching another valley here? You could definitely make that argument. Tringali, I don't know. I still think Tringali's going to get some ownership this week anyways, but could be like half a Harman or something like that. Is Phil the pivot? I don't know. I mean, like, do we just play Phil again? I don't really want to do that, but
yeah, I have Phil and Ryan Palmer currently projected at 2% ownership. I think I play Palmer.
I definitely play Palmer.
It's his home course. How could that fail?
Yeah, that was like 5 years ago, right, Pat? Like when we broke into the industry, that was like the one thing. Everyone's like, Ryan Palmer's going to win this week because this is where he played. That was like the analysis for the week. So I guess everyone just forgot. Maybe it's like it's become like so less of a thing. But yeah, I mean, Ryan Palmer's playing fine. I mean, he's actually putted quite well this year if you look back too. Coming off a missed cut at the PGA. Again, I actually don't hate that. I mean, you look back to a couple of years ago when Kevin Na won. I mean, Na missed the cut at the PGA. I think Finau was second that year. I think he finished like T64 at the PGA. So I don't hate backing guys coming off missed cuts. I mean, it's kind of why I like Harman as well. So I would definitely say Palmer, in the mid 8K range. I mean, Porschel, I think is fine too. But if he gets a little bit of ownership, the guy who gets like 5% owned is Palmer, who we've seen be like extreme chalk, less than a month ago. So yeah, I think that's a guy I'll definitely have a little bit of interest in this range.
Yeah, there's the three guys in a row. Palmer, Mickelson, and Na are going relatively just pass by, so people can play Brian Harman and Cameron Tringali and young gun, according to Tim Andercust, Kevin Streelman.
I knew you'd pick up on it, but when Phil walked past Streelman yesterday, oh my God, like I felt bad for him. I'm like the guy just wants like a little shout out here, Phil. But yeah, Streelman, normally I think coming off a normal week, you'd be like, this is, Streelman sets up well for this course. Good ball striker. Can he get hot with the putter? Probably not, but definitely didn't look like he was comfortable putting, in the fourth round last week. You would consider him. I don't know. It's like a kind of like one of those career results where I just don't know if I really want to, chance that this guy hasn't had like a little bit of fatigue or something. But you could definitely think about Streelman. I'd probably rather pivot to Streelman than ride another Phil wave, try and ride another Phil wave or something, because Lord knows what Phil's going to be up to the next couple of days. So
are you
Streelman could
hold on? Are you surprised Phil is still? I mean, by the time that people see this, maybe he's withdrawn, but I can't believe he's still playing.
It's got to be some kind of sponsor. Like there's got to be something. It's like Charles Schwab or something. There's something we're all missing here. Like that under the table, or maybe it's not under the table. I don't know. But there's definitely been a commitment from Phil, and I'm sure that there's a reason. I think if there wasn't a reason, and by reason I mean like money, then I think Phil probably wouldn't be here. But that's just my speculation. Phil is a pretty loyal guy too. So maybe there's this event has done good by him in the past. I don't know, but I was a little bit surprised to just see, I'm going to Colonial, like straight up, very, very succinct. Didn't have to think about it at all. Obviously he's had this in his mind for a bit. And I guess the other thing you could think is like, is he just like chasing Ryder Cup points or something? Like, is that in the back of his mind? I don't know. I was trying to figure that out too. Like, why is this such a big deal? But those are the only two things I could come up with.
Now that he's won a major, I don't think that they can keep him off the team.
I mean, I agree. I like he's the thing about Phil is too, he's the perfect captain's pick, right? Like I know if it's Phil and he's competitive and he's going to want to play, but like if you have to sit him for a round, like he's 50, he's a captain, he's probably going to be a captain's pick. Like he's not going to make a huge stink and like, go at Stricker or whatever. I mean, he's a guy who's just going to keep everything loose. He's going to be talking to the media so the young guys don't. I think I would even pick him to be honest. I think it would be a great captain's pick because it's like the Euros picking Westwood, right? Like it's just the guy who keeps everyone loose, who's like, he's out there, like nothing's gonna bother him this week, and he's gonna be the one who can go up and take the brunt of it and have fun with the media while the other guys focus. So yeah, I think Phil would probably work out in that way for sure.
Just trying to look at the European team right now. Victor Perez is still in on points for them, and I don't know if he makes it if he ends up having to be a captain's pick. I just can't see that happening. And maybe he ends up like heating up, so it won't be that big of a deal. But and Feinberg pointed this out too, just kind of what you said, that having Phil on the team alleviates so much pressure. But if it comes down to it, like the last spot is Zalatoris, Phil, or Scheffler. Like Phil's getting that spot, but I think I would take the other two instead.
I mean, yeah, the other argument is obviously you want to develop the young guys. And I'm generally the person who's like, you should be doing that. Like, when they leave off, I don't know, like I can't even remember who was young the last time we had a Ryder Cup because it feels like forever ago now, right? But I'm generally the guy who's like, yeah, you should be developing Tony Finau or something like 5 years ago. Like, why aren't they taking him and giving him a shot? But I also feel like, again, you've got to go with the team dynamic here, and it's a way. So that's the one thing I'd say. Everyone's hot, obviously, right now. We want to give Phil as much credit as possible, but if Phil is still like making cuts and like looking good and hitting bombs, so to speak, and it hasn't like completely gone in the gutter or something, I mean, I think he's definitely got to be considered. I mean, I just think from a team dynamic, it's a thing that would help the U.S. do a win more than like picking Zalatoris, who, well, Zalatoris is pretty special, but I still feel like it would the team dynamic with Phil and just the experience as well might give them a bigger boost.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now. It's so hard to figure out like the 2-tier point system for the European team. But who's in and who's out? Who's in right now okay, here we go. Rahm, Fleetwood, Hatton, and Rory. And then
Right.
Hovland, Casey, Westwood, Fitzpatrick, and Perez are all on the teams. That leaves like Lowry, Willett, Casey's in, sorry. McIntyre,
Sergio.
Guido, Sergio, Molinari. Like, all those guys are feasible picks. I know Molinari's been playing like crap, but what if all of a sudden he just starts heating up and he's Francesco Molinari again? He was their best player at the Ryder Cup last time around.
Well, I mean, Sergio's making the team.
Well, okay,
Right?
what if Poulter wins Colonial this week?
He'll be on the team. Like, there's no question. I mean, I feel like Sergio and Poulter both have extremely good chances of making that team. Like, okay, who are the guys who are close? Like Bobby Mack.
I just closed it because I'm stupid. Bobby Mack, Guido, our guy Guido, he's up there. I think he's 16th in the standings now. So you have him. Matt Wallace is getting pretty close. He's probably having the best year. Wiesberger's pretty close.
Yeah.
Lowry's pretty close, especially after his top 4 finish
Lowry
at the PGA Championship. He's been playing really well. I think he had a top 10 at the Players too. So there's guys up there that could feasibly make this team.
Lowry would be a hard lead off right now. I mean, he is playing really good. Top 10 at the Players and a top 10 at the PGA to go along with obviously the Open win. Lowry, Poulter, Sergio. Like I won't be shocked if that's it. Now, you mentioned a guy like Matt Wallace. Does this Guido guy win again? I don't know. I think he pretty much have to grab another win.
He in fact he didn't win. He came second.
Oh, that's right. My bad.
My bank account shows he came in second.
That's right. My point is, a player like that is going to need to get like not just hot, but like ultra hot. Like he's going to have to win a couple times in a row here to get considered over those guys. I think Lowry is definitely going to be on there. I think Lowry get on over Wallace. It's just hard to not pick a guy who's got an Open win in his back pocket. Even if Wallace like won this week or something, I think Lowry might actually have the edge there. But I think those 4 guys, Wallace, Lowry, Sergio, Poulter, they got to be the front runners. All those young guys, even Bobby McIntyre, like they got to show something big here because I think the Euros have guys who've won so well. They've done so well against the States. They'll just go back to them. And quite frankly, not like Poulter's not playing that bad. Sergio's missed a few cuts, but Sergio won in the fall swing too. So it wasn't that long ago.
It's not. I just try to think about Whistling Straits and what's going to play there. Maybe the Poulter, and I guess Sergio can kind of play anywhere. He has enough distance to do it. But like Poulter becomes super tricky, but you kind of want his putter on your team, especially in
Definitely want Lowry at Whistling Straits.
Yeah, you want Lowry at Whistling Straits for sure, with the way that he's driving the ball and the way that he can scramble. But it just leads me back to Bobby Mack, who has just been so good off the tee all year long. Like, just roll him out there and see what happens.
I agree. Like, it's a good setup for Bobby Mack, and that is the young player that, like, the Euros, like, that's their kind of Zalatoris, right? Or that's their, I don't know. I want to say Morikawa, but that's their, like, really young stud. Like, so.
Well, no, I mean, in fairness to them, they have Rahm and Hovland.
Right. Outside of the, like, guys who are already on the team is what I meant. But you're right. He's their kind of young up and comer that they're going to have to consider. Do we want to give this guy experience now? Or are we going to go and just, like, take Poulter, a guy who has been like an American killer over his career? So I think it's going to come down. And I think the same case with Phil. How are these guys doing in a couple months? If Poulter is, like, you know, in contention in a couple tournaments, and Phil is, like I said, still making cuts or whatever, I think those guys have the edge. I just think they do. I think one more run and we'll see. But yeah, Bobby Mack definitely going to be an interesting one to watch because, you know, one more win for him, he might even just get on the team, you know, just qualifies. So.
That's true, yeah, because he would have 2 wins in the calendar year and accumulate those Ryder Cup points. He's in Denmark this week. Maybe he's the favorite. Maybe he just wins over there. All is good.
He bumps special or whatever.
He bumps Victor Perez off the team, and we're off to the races all of a sudden. And like Danny Willett could win one of these events because he's pretty close as well in terms of points. But I want to talk about the 7K players at Colonial. Shifting back to that, the guys that I like right now, none of the chalk guys actually. I like Poulter this week. Poulter burned me the year that Kirk won here. I thought the Poulter was going to win, but alas, he did not. See, woo! Kim, $7,600. Time to get back on track for old Si Woo. And I like Patton Kizzire again, $7,400. But why am I going away from Patton Kizzire? He's been so good to me.
Yeah, Kizzire is one of those guys I'm just like, oh, this week he'll start to putt bad, and then he just never putts bad again for the rest of his life. So he's got two top 10s last 5 starts.
Yeah, when you say he has 2 top 10s in his past 2 starts, what were the location of those 2 top 10s, by the way?
Oh yeah, Texas, Pat. Texas guy, I guess. I don't know. Good point out though. Yeah, Valero and Byron Nelson. So, but realistically, I mean, this is, you know, Kazzire's got his win at the OHL and the Sony Open. I mean, pretty good comparables, tighter tracks, especially the Sony. So this is a track where, you know, Kizzire again, these tracks like Colonial, they bring in all different types of players, and you know, Kizzire doesn't have to be crazy good off the tee. He's just got to be not the worst. He can definitely get hot with his irons a little bit, and if he does, we know what he can do on the greens. He can go absolutely nuts. Like I said, you know, you could get like a +8 stroke ball striking from Corey Connors, and Kizzire could just output him and grab the win. So I definitely don't hate it. You know, we mentioned Vajegas' name down there. I don't mind Harold Varner at this track. Opened with a 63 here last year. You know, he's been playing pretty good. Again, another player who he's kind of gravitated to these tighter tracks. Like you see him at Hilton Head. He's played well at Wyndham. I kind of like HV3, another Texas guy. He was top 20 here last year. He's more of like a poor man's Corey Connors. Obviously, we're not sure what he's going to bring with the putter every week, but I think with how he's playing right now, I definitely don't hate him in this range.
No, Higgs is another one who's putting so well, and I don't think he's going to garner any ownership after coming 4th at the PGA Championship, if that's just the case. I think we need to hash it out.
0 shot. Did you see 1 shot of Harry Higgs last week?
No. How bad? I don't want to rehash this again, but how bad was that coverage?
It was horrendous, dude. They weren't they showed Sanjay's score before they showed his double bogey. Like it was like bizarro world. It was really bad. They didn't show Cantlay's putts live when he wasn't really, I mean, he's kind of making a run when he was slightly in contention. They didn't show him in the back 9. You know, he's still a bit of drama there, but it was bad, man. It was basically the Phil show, which I guess is fine for, like, you know, our dads, but you know, for the like more hardcore golf fans, it was lacking, to say the least.
Yeah, just a little bit. That would be my takeaway from it.
Yeah.
I would have been okay if they were like live updating the leaderboard and we weren't seeing the shots. At least that would have given me some context. Because I remember there was a Zalatoris eagle putt at one time, and I was following it on like the up-to-date shot tracker. And I was like, oh, he made this eagle like 20 minutes ago. Like he has 9 feet for birdie on the next hole, and they're showing him putt for eagle on the hole before. Like that's like a legit 20 minutes.
No, and that's what I'm talking about with the Sanjay stuff. Like they had accidentally updated Sanjay's scores because they were so far behind. The guy was like 2 holes ahead already, and then they showed his double bogey. Like it was ridiculous. So exactly. Like if you're not going to show us every shot live, at least just give us like a quick update, like when it happens. Like update us. Like keep us in the know. You could have gone. The app was absolutely horrendous as well, but it was still quicker than the coverage. So bizarre viewing experience. Luckily, Phil was like keeping most of our focus anyways. But yeah, for DFS, it was frustrating, man. Like, events happen and you had to wait 5 minutes to get like the updates. So I don't know.
Trying to find out here. Can you talk me out of the Gim Reaper? Because I'm just going to use him. You can't talk me out of him. But should I be particularly afraid of a guy who can't putt?
Yeah. So I said, I mean, we talked about this before the show. I like Doug Gim. I mean, he's a good birdie maker. He can get the irons firing. I trust Doc Redman more in this range. And I kind of told you he's a little bit more my guy, but Doc has shown the ability to get confidence with that putter and really just start bearing with it. So I don't even know if he would be the guy I would pivot to in this range, but I would feel a little bit more comfortable here. I think the problem with this whole range is if you're not going to play Gim, like there's nobody else you can really stay that is like that much more comfortable. Like I kind of like Russell Knox this week, but he's pretty much the same player as Doug Gim. Like he could easily lose like 3 strokes putting this week. So I probably would rank Gim below those two, like Knox and Redmond, but we're just kind of like playing favorites here. It's not like I have anything huge to point to. Redmond did play well his last time out. He had a top 10. I think he's shown a little bit more propensity for upside, like just to put those in blistering rounds in and get you like a top 5 or a top 10 and like a top 5 DraftKings week. But it's pretty small. I mean, I think Doug Gim's, birdie rate is also shown to be good. So I guess I can't really talk you out of it, but I do like Knox and Redmond a little bit more in this range. And I think Higgs, if we're being honest, is probably safer than those guys, just because he's probably going to like be okay on the greens, whereas the other guys might not.
Well, it's funny because just looking at all the ownership right now, like stat heads will play Doug Gim because they'll run the numbers. They're like, oh, Doug Gim's a top 10 play in this field. He's actually the best value.
Yeah.
And that's what the stats will tell you. I even factored in putting, and it's still telling me that. And I think he ranks 119th of 121 people in this field, but he's like top 10 in everything else. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun when he misses the cut in like 90% of my lineups. But there's other guys you can get to, like Sergio's in this field. He's and like going to be under 2%.
No. Yeah, Sergio is how much is he actually?
Sergio is 7,500.
7,500. I thought he was 78. I was looking in the wrong spot. Unbelievable price for Sergio. Sergio's going to be one of those guys where like I might just play because you maybe you fill out your lineup and you got like 7,700 left and you're like, are you kidding me? Like Sergio's down here in this field, right? So yeah, like no ownership. He's won this event, hasn't he?
No, he won Byron Nelson when it was at like his course, I think.
If he hasn't won Colonial, I swear to God, he won Colonial when he was like in like 1999. But if he didn't, he like has a high finish here. Anyways, all he needs to do is get hot with his irons for 1 week. We know he's going to drill a ton of fairways and stuff like that. So Sergio's tended to do pretty well at these classic ball strikers venues, but ridiculous cheap price. I mean, you can obviously take a shot on Siwoo bouncing back. And I think that, we have more recent form for Siwoo. And I know you mentioned you like that play. I like him over Sergio as well, but I wouldn't discount someone. He's very much Sergio is like the Brooks Koepka play of this week. Like, he's going to be 2% owned. His price is ridiculous, just like Brooks's betting price was ridiculous last week. And if he shows up, I mean, he's going to be the play in this range for sure.
Sergio Garcia, the 2001 champion at Colonial.
Okay, I was remembering that correctly. I'm glad. That's good.
So are some other. Rory Sabatini is one here. Stricker. Yeah, you have a run because Phil won for the second time in 2008. Then you have like the exact same type of player win like 4 years in a row. Stricker, ZJ, Toms, ZJ. Like,
well, and on that point, with the Stricker and ZJ play, this is the good correlation here is John Deere, right? Because that's where Stricker and ZJ also win. It's also where Spieth goes. So a little something to think about if you're looking at like other leaderboards this week. Big correlation with the John Deere Classic, which, you can make cases for, like HV3's played well there too, and a few other guys, but something to think about if you want to get like a little deeper and look into other spots.
Well, that would kind of lean me towards guys that are just good from like 100 to 125 yards, because that's all that course is. It's just a wedge fest. Like, who's the best with their wedges?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Would you like to know who the best players over the past 24 rounds are?
Let's do it.
All right, so
I don't know.
The top 15 players over the past 24 rounds from 100 to 125 yard proximity are Munoz, number 1, Hollywood Hoagie, number 2, Morikawa, Ben and Corey Connors, Bramlett, Stenson, Kuchar, Fratelli, Malnati, JT, Billy Horschel, Snedeker, the Todd Father, and old Duff Daddy. He have like an 82 on Friday.
That's right. Oh, a lot of interesting names in there. Really, really sad to hear Benny Ann's name in there, because now I'm probably going to have to look into Benny Ann. But yeah, again, I don't know if you want to put too much emphasis on that range, but it is one of those courses where, you have some long iron shots on Colonial, obviously, but there's a ton of par fours here. Not all of them are long. So taking advantage with wedges is a thing here. Absolutely. Jason
Duffner, second in 2014, second in 2012 as well. He never got that stupid plaid jacket, but maybe he'll get it.
Right. Yeah. He lost
He's a classic old guy who could be like making a resurgence. His ball striking has actually been really good. He just legit cannot putt.
He was hanging around a couple leaderboards there, but yeah, that's right. He lost in a playoff to Adam Scott 1 year. Duff Daddy, hey, yeah, missed the cut last week, obviously. Gained 7 strokes on approach at Wells Fargo.
Yeah, and the week before that, he was good too on approach.
6,600, eh? Yeah, I might have to sprinkle a little Duffner in there.
Or do we just try to play the Todd game? Like, hey, just hit the fairway and make all your putts, pal. I think I tried that last year and it didn't work.
Oh, you mean like actually play Brendan Todd?
Yeah. Like, wouldn't this be one of like the 5 courses where you would consider playing him at?
Yeah, absolutely you would. I just don't know what he's been up to lately. I've just been so out on Brendan Todd. Lost strokes on approach in 9 straight starts.
That's good.
But that
right?
really doesn't matter with Brendan Todd, because he could just gain 9 strokes putting. So 7,100. I mean, I don't hate it. We didn't love anyone in this range. Like, I mean, that's the kind of play you should be, if you want to get off Doug Gim, or if like Doug Gim ends up chalking this range, that's kind of the play you should be aiming for in GPPs. Guys who can just get hot. Like Sabatini is probably another veteran. You mentioned he's 1 year before. I have no idea what that guy's been up to lately either, but Pat Perez, all great putters.
Oh boy. The chalk in this range, at least right now, and for Fantasy National members who've generated a lineup so far, maybe it was just you, but Doc Redman is popping off the charts, but his projected ownership is only actually 8% at the moment, the same as Gims, the same as Gooch, the same as Glover. Like, they're all just kind of the same. Varner's the only one who really sticks out from below 7,500 to 7,000 as someone that is like people are actively gravitating towards.
I'm kind of interested in Pat Perez and Duffner now, coming off this Phil win. The old guy narrative.
How old is Kyle Stanley? Like, this reeks of a
He's
Kyle
like
Stanley.
33, isn't he?
I don't know. He has that big beard and he wears those glasses. He could be any age.
He also can't putt though.
That's true, but neither can Duffner.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a good point on Duffner. Stanley's played well. He's been a lot more consistent with the irons, which is like his bread and butter. Like when they're going well, he can kind of compete anywhere. But this is definitely his style of course. Doesn't hit it a ton off the tee. But yeah, putting has been pretty bad. Lost over a stroke in 5 out of the last 6 events, but he could spike.
All right, 6K guys, before we get out of here, once again, smash the like to the episode. Leave your favorite $6,000 player in the comments section. Here are the ones I got on the go right now. I love Matt McNeely this week, so that's only going to burn me considering he's made 4 of 10 cuts in 2021. But I really like him.
I got a worse guy than Matt McNeely. So.
Okay, so I got McNeely, Hoagie, who I mentioned. I actually really like this week. He's been playing pretty well.
Yep.
Duffner, Stenson at 67. I'm putting a tentative star next to his name. And I actually really like Michael Thompson.
I'm a big Michael Thompson truther, so I can definitely get behind that.
I do have one question for you, though. He won on the PGA Tour last year. He wasn't in the PGA Championship this year. How did that happen?
That is a very good point. How did that happen? I don't know. How is that? Yeah, wait. Actually, no. Like what? Oh, because it qualified him. He won before the PGA last year.
He did, but you'd think if you win a tournament on tour, like you'd still have like good enough status that you could get into the PGA Championship the next year.
Yeah, it is kind of weird because like he finished 5th at the Amex, 25th. Like he's got some results. I get. You know what? I bet you was right on the cutoff. Like I'm not going to look it up here, but he's probably like 100th, and I think he had to be top 70 or something at a certain point. So he was probably really close. He was probably one of the alternates or something. But yeah, that is weird. But it definitely, he won right before the August PGA, so obviously it qualified him for that. Where he missed the cut.
He is currently number 106 in the world rankings.
Yeah, so if he's outside the top 100, he's definitely riding the bubble. Yep.
Yeah, and his win only got him up to 99th in the world when he won.
He was
Yeah, he was down in the 200s, but he gained 5.1 strokes on approach at Wells Fargo.
Yep.
And these are just the courses that I like him at. And if we're talking about someone, if he just hits his irons decently, he is someone who can putt his way to a win.
Yeah. Oh, Michael Thompson is a fantastic putter. He's a pretty talented guy. Like former number 1 amateur player in the world at one point. I mean, he's definitely like someone who, you wouldn't think of him, but he's a multi-time winner on the PGA. And I wouldn't be shocked if he got another one just because of how good he is on and around the greens. Like there's enough courses like Colonial where he could pop. So I definitely like that. Yeah. Like you said, popped a little bit with the approaches in his last time out. Stenson's definitely interesting. I'll be taking a look into that. I mean, 6,700. Like that play. I mean, Stenson's been playing a little bit more, which you like. I'm not going to bet Stenson for an outright or anything, but
what are his odds? Because he's gained on approach in 4 straight events. He gained 6 strokes on approach at the PGA Championship.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, people are all over Grillo, but maybe we should be betting him actually. Now that I think about it, but
I mean, Rose has won here before. Don't they all just win at the same places?
Who are you, Henrik Stenson? What's going on here? Here we go. 200 to 1.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that with the each way right now. That'll be our collective bet.
I mean, I'm in. Let's go. Henrik Stenson 200 to 1. That's like an auto bet. I'm in.
Same price as JT Poston and Adam Shank and Michael Thompson. Well, I'm down. See, now I'm betting guys at 200 to 1 again.
That's okay.
Let's go. You're getting $10.
This is perfect synergy. This is a good way to end the show. We talk about how guys at 100 to 1 never win, and we bet like 3 of them. This is good.
$10 on the win, $10 on the each way. So if they win, they pay $2,500. Let's do this. Let's have it.
I'm definitely getting on that. He did. I mean, he's gained strokes. He's gained over stroke in his last 4 starts, Stenson. So
yeah, the only guy from down here, there's one that doesn't make sense to me in terms of pricing. It's weird because I never play this guy, but the way that you've described it and the way that he can pop and his one good thing that he can do, whenever you look back at any of the high finishes that he's had in his career, it's at courses like this.
I think you're going to talk about my guy here.
It's Denny McCarthy at 60. Why is he 60?
Oh, no, it's not my guy.
Denny McCarthy's usually like 7,400. Why is he 6,300 in this field?
Yeah, that's true. I was going to talk about Patrick Rogers, but
same
deal. Denny McCarthy at 6,300. Absolutely. You're right. Lahiri is actually another guy. Actually, I'll save that for Ben in case he's on tomorrow or something. But Lahiri, Denny McCarthy, you can make cases for these guys down here. And that's where I would lean. Again, if you're looking for a guy who can pop down here, those are 2 names. I also throw Jimmy Walker, who has some pretty good results around here, been putting well. But that's like, you should be emphasizing the good putters down here. Like that's pretty much all you should be looking at, in my opinion. Guys who maybe have a little bit of experience playing the course and can really pop with the putter. Obviously, you'd like it if they were playing a little bit better, but you're at 6,300 here. Like, take what you can get. So.
What about DFS cheap darling Vince Whaley?
Yeah, he's only 6,200. Eh?
Yeah, and it's funny
because he just got in the field. He got in the field because Louis withdrew. That's right.
Okay, but you look at the bottom, like Eric straight out of Compton's in this field. So not only is there only 121 players and the top 65 in ties make the cut, you have Keith Clearwater, who I think last made a cut in like 2003.
He can't still be in this event, Keith Clearwater.
He is. Did he win this event in like 1986 or something? He's still playing?
Yes. That is why he's here. I don't know why he keeps showing up.
Did he actually?
That's why he's in the field,
he won this event in 1987. I was 2.
I'm not gonna say how old I was, but yeah, that's crazy, dude. And it's crazy that Whaley's price, actually. Now we're thinking about it. I know he's an alternate, like he just got in because Louis withdrew, but like, why wasn't he like 7K his last time at the Byron Nelson?
Yeah, he's made 8 cuts in a row. He was 26 at the Byron Nelson, 26 at Wells Fargo. He's gaining off the tee. He can be bad with his approach from time to time, and that's not great news. But he's gained in 2 of the past 3. He keeps gaining, or he gains around the greens. He gains on the greens. Just seems really cheap. And with the way that this event is structured, I think that the balance build that we talked about at the top is going to be the most popular way to do this. That if you did want to go like Spieth Thomas, use McCarthy and Vince Whaley. Like I said, like 60% of the guys are going to make the cut this week.
Yeah, exactly. 60% of the guys have made the cut. And quite frankly, you've got a guy at 6,200 who's made 9 cuts in a row on the PGA Tour. And like the last 8 of them, he's finished in the top 36 for 6,200. Like, I don't even care what he's doing if he's doing that. I mean, he certainly can putt well. I mean, he's gained strokes putting. You know, he's a guy who's probably, if he makes the weekend, he's going to get hot because he's got a bunch of confidence right now and grind you out like a T25 performance. Whereas, you know, you get stuck on some other like loser who's not playing well and doesn't have confidence. He'll just shoot like 75 and kill you. So Whaley is ridiculous. I'm actually going to be interested to see what his ownership projections will be later in the week. It's not going to be that high. Like, don't get scared off him because he's 6,200. Like, he's just not going to get that high. So interesting. Yeah, didn't actually catch that until right now, which is
you could
cool.
go Spieth, Morikawa, Whaley, McCarthy, Charlie Hoffman, and still have $7,100.
Yeah, I mean, I'd throw Lahiri in there over McCarthy, but whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, he's 6,300, and you don't even need to use Hoffman. Like, if you really wanted to, you could use Connors in that lineup. If you use
no, absolutely.
If you use Connors, you have $6,400 left, and you can use your boy Lahiri.
It's definitely a good way to think about building this week, like in all seriousness, because so many people are making the cut. It's a putting first course. If you get on the 2 cheap guys that pop, or even just one of them pop and the other guy makes the cut, you've got exposure to 3 or 4 studs there. So
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. It makes your lineup build really unique too, because I mean, Spieth, there's a reason that Spieth and Thomas are the 2 most expensive players, and the 2, I don't know, they're the 2 with the highest win equity too. Although I looked at the Fantasy National Simulator, Morikawa is an overwhelming favorite when you run the simulator 1,000 times. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah, I'm not shocked to hear that, quite frankly. Like I said, just where he is in the recent form stats. I mean, you could easily make the case like he should have been 11-5 instead of 10-5 or something. So yeah.
We always close this out with the best part of the show. Even one of my lineups last week actually turned out to be pretty good, except for Sam Burns, who withdrew. The play the best plays lineup, Jeff. If we're going to play the best plays and try to build a 6-6 team that's going to get you into the cash, where are we going?
All right. Are we starting in the 9K range with 2 guys, or are we starting with Morikawa?
I don't know. What do you think that we should do? Because is Morikawa a significantly better play than Spieth, Thomas, Reed, or Berger? And does 1 Morikawa equal 2 of, let's say, Hoffman and Neiman or something?
You know what? Because this event is an invitational, because it's a smaller field, I think we should start with Morikawa.
Okay, so if we start with Morikawa, that gives us $7,900 per player left. If, let's say, we start Connors, Neiman, Hoffman in our lineups, we have $7,500 left per player.
You know what? I'm terrible at this. Let's start over. Let's just go the balance way. It'll be way easier for me because I'll start lifting off guys like Patrick Rogers as our last pick. Let's not do that. Corey Connors, first pick. Joaquin Neiman. That's it.
All right. So Connors, Neiman, Hoffman?
Yes, absolutely. You just, that's I know it's super chalky, but we're not caring about that. It's the best plays. Throw Grillo in there.
Okay. Grillo is going into the lineup. So now
Actually, wait. should we debate Grillo or Harmon?
I'm good with either one of them. I think that Harmon's probably safer to make the cut. Griot's probably more likely for a top end performance.
Okay, we'll keep in Grillo.
Okay, we'll keep Griot.
What do we got left?
7,350 for our last two players. So is there someone right at like 7,000 that we like a lot? Because there's not. That's the problem.
I know. That's the problem.
Like it's like Gim.
Yeah. Who we spent like 10 minutes trying to pivot off of.
What if we take out Hoffman and put in Harmon? Does that do anything for us? That leaves us with 7,700 per player. That means we can fit in Chris Kirk and have $7,800 left.
I would rather play Kuchar over Kirk.
Really? I mean, we can play them both in this scenario.
We could actually do that. Oh, what about Siwoo though?
I don't think Siwoo should ever make a play the best plays lineup. I tried that. I tried that last week. Didn't go well.
That's fair. We could just end with Kuchar and Kirk.
All right, so we'll do that. Connors, Neiman, Harmon, Griot, Kirk, Kuchar. That's the play the best plays lineup team. And it even leaves $200 on the table if you really wanted to. You could get from Hoffman up to Rose or Horschel, or you could go from, let's see here. You could go to Finau or Scheffler from Connors if you wanted to too.
Our only other option, I feel like, would be to like put Whaley in and then just add in another stud. Like take out Kirk and Kuchar and do that.
Take out. Okay, so Whaley at 6,200, put him in there. That leaves us with $9,200 left now. Wow. So we can play Woodland, Im, Kokrak, Rose, Horschel, or Hoffman.
You know what? Throw Kokrak. Throw Kokrak in there.
In the best plays lineup, the answer is Hoffman.
Is it over Kokrak?
I think so. Yeah. Like there's a reason that Hoffman's going to be like 25% owned.
So our choice is Whaley and Hoffman or Kirk and Kuchar. Hey, you know what? Let's go Whaley and Hoffman. Let's do it.
Whaley and Hoffman. Connors, Neiman, Harmon, Griot, Whaley, Hoffman. With $500 left on the table too. We could upgrade Griot to 8,400. Nostrielman, Wallace, Tringali, Snedeker. Take a pass on that. We could get up to Phil if we wanted to. Probably don't need to do that. We could go from Neiman or Connors up to like the Zalatoris Answer range. Like we could go from Connors to Answer if we wanted to.
I like Answer over Connors, but I admit that like it's, you know,
I personally think that it's a wash between those two guys.
Yeah.
We could go from Neiman to Answer, but yeah, we'll throw Answer in there. We'll leave Corey Connors on the bench.
Okay, let's do that. Let's bench Connors.
All right, so the official play the best plays lineup. Answer, Neiman, Harmon, Griot, Hoffman, Vince Whaley.
Okay, I like it.
Right, there we go. Leaves $200.
Taking advantage of that cheap Whaley, man. I mean, look, it's a big discount.
There's one player, and then we try to do this at the end of every show, that I rescan the board and figure out a player that we just didn't mention once who really deserves to be mentioned. Lee Westwood. $7,600.
Okay.
He had it kind of going at Byron Nelson after day one, and he had it going for like the first 2 days of the PGA Championship.
I mean, I've been thinking about Lee Westwood, but I've been more thinking about him for like the Open Championship to grab a win there. But you're right. I mean, he's looked like the last 2 times out more closer to that form than like that we saw from him at the Players near Palmer, right? So I could see it. I mean, in that range, you're going to have to decide. I mean, you know, I threw out Kuchar already, but Kuchar will get some ownership. But if you want to really low and play, like I would probably feel a little bit more confident over him versus Sergio. Maybe Sergio has like the better upside, you could argue, but I don't even know. I mean, Westwood just about won the Players like a couple months ago, so I can get behind it. Do you like him over Poulter or no? I like Poulter this week.
I do like Poulter. I like Poulter at this course just with the scorching hot putter. I think Tee to Green, I would trust Westwood a little bit more. What do you think Brendan Grace came at the PGA Championship when all was said and done?
Oh, good question. T30.
T38.
Wow. Felt more than I thought. Him and Bizet Note had a brutal Sunday. They did
Yeah.
not have fun.
Bazadin out. I was trying to, on Saturday, I was like, well, I have one pretty good 6-6 on the go in the Millionaire Maker. I was like, it probably requires Bazadin out to win by 5 strokes, but like, I'm going to let this play out. But then it was like Hideki. Like going to Saturday, I was like, this team's not bad. Hideki, Bazadin out, Lowry, someone, and it had Webb, and Webb was my shitty guy, but he went and posted like a 4 under Saturday morning. I was like, okay, we're in business now. And then everyone else sucked.
I had a similar experience. Lowry put a lineup that I didn't think had any chance of cashing in the cash, and then Cantlay came along and tripled the 17th and took it out of the cash. So that was fun.
Good times. Had bio. What you got going on this week for golf coverage?
Oh, just the usual. At DK Nation, DraftKings playbook there. Have the cheat sheet up. So check that out. I'll tweet it out on Twitter. You can follow me at the Fantasy Grind. Definitely give me a follow there. Got some stuff going on at Awesemo as well. We do group bets now. So our favorite plays of the week. I don't think we've hit one yet, but Roz is in there. So probably have his Lahiri play. I'll try and get someone better than that in there this week though. But check it out, both sites. Appreciate it as always. And appreciate you, Pat, for having me on, buddy.
Of course, if you're going to keep giving out 200 to 1 winners, now that we've bet 2, you better
Patrick
fucking win
Rogers
this
this
week,
week.
by the way. We just bet the 2 same
Hey,
guys.
Patrick
They better win. Like you're guaranteeing they're going to win. They better win.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah, 100% hit rate on 200 to 1. It's funny because the last time that you and I had a big 1v1 discussion in a price range, I think it was Cam Smith versus someone at Sony the year that Cam Smith won the Sony.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, weren't you against me on Cam Smith?
I was.
It's true. Some good. It's a good memory, but I remember that actually.
But I don't feel like we had that. I guess right this week
We didn't. I really. You. The mojo's gone here. But we're both on Stenson, which I actually like. Just play him maybe for a top 10 mixed in too, in case he doesn't actually win.
No, he's definitely going to win. Guaranteed. That's what your words, not mine. Guaranteed. Henrik Stenson, 200 to 1 winner. Spend the money right now because it's going to be in your bank in 5 days' time. So that's the way you should think about it. At the Fantasy Grind on Twitter, Geoff Ulrich. You can follow me at the PME, fantasynational.com/Mayo to get 20% off. Smash a like, leave a comment, sub to the pod, subscribe to Mayo Media Network and the Newsletter Listeners League link in the description of the video and podcast. Thank you all for watching. Check out the Euro Pick Show up on Mayo Media Network right now. Spoiler, Guido 45 to 1. That's the bet. And I'll see you next time.
That Mayo experience! Experience!